This episode of the Jewish Road podcast is brought to you ad-free by The Few. Who are The Few? They are a growing worldwide tribe rediscovering the Jewish roots of their faith and the story God is telling through Israel and the nations. If you believe Israel's story still matters, you might be among them. Join The Few at thejewishroad.com/few. Hey, welcome. This is the Jewish Road podcast. Right now, the United States and Israel is at war with Iran, and we are coming here to talk to you and share a guest that we had that is incredibly timely and important.
Yeah, his name is Uri Shacham, and he is with Magen David Adom. And if you don't know what Magen David Adom is, you're going to get a real tremendous picture of what they do in Israel and really other places too.
So listen to this episode, and we have quite a few more coming down the pipeline. Thanks for listening. This is the Jewish Road podcast. Hey, well, welcome. This is the Jewish Road podcast, and we are finally back after a little bit of a hiatus and lots of stuff going on. My name is Matt Davis, and I'm here with my dad.
Hey, I'm Ron Davis.
And we're going to kick it off because there is so much going on in the world right now, especially Israel, America, and Iran, and have a new friendship and relationship here with an organization that maybe or maybe you haven't heard. It's called Magen David Adom, and we're here with Uri Shacham, and you're part of that. And so we just want to say hello, shalom, and welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming.
Shalom. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited of being here today.
So give us a little bit of understanding. What is Magen David Adom?
Well, Magen David Adom is Israel's national emergency services system. Now, these are big words. So to put things in the context, we are the national ambulance and blood services for the entire country. That means that if somebody in Israel is having a medical emergency and he or she needs help, it will be Magen David Adom ambulance that will arrive to the scene, provide the medical attention, and then take the person to the hospital. There's much more into it in terms of technology and volunteers and things like this. Maybe we'll get to it later, but this is in general. And we are also the blood services for the entire country. So we collect more than 250 units of blood a year, process it, and provide it to anybody who is in need in Israel, mainly the hospitals. We are also the National Society of the State of Israel. That is, we are affiliated with the Red Cross. You can say that we are similar to the American Red Cross, although each national society does other stuff. The American Red Cross are providing humanitarian relief, shelter, and blood services. And Magen David Adom, as I mentioned, we provide a little bit other services. As long as those are humanitarian services, this is what really matters.
So first responders, Red Cross, basically the 911 for Israel.
Yeah, and I was reading a little bit about, what Magen David Adom does, and one thing that struck me as interesting was that you transport over 1 million people a year to the hospital. Is that true?
Indeed, we provide services throughout the country, and this means that anybody that has medical distress, he calls the national number. That's like the equivalent to 911. The difference is that with Magen David Adom, the first person to pick up the phone is a medical professional. So you got within 2 to 5 seconds a medical professional on the line, and Magen David Adom EMT will provide life-saving instruction, how to stop a bleeding, or how to deliver a baby, or how to do CPR. So the medical treatment begins from the first 5 seconds. And you mentioned correctly the first responders. We have Magen David Adom has about 1,500 on-calls EMTs. They are located with all the communities in the state of Israel. within the cities, within the kibbutzim, within the Christian communities, the Druze communities, the Muslim communities. Regardless where somebody lives, there is a network of people whom their entire interest is to save lives. And Magen David Adom has developed a system that knows to find the nearest EMT or paramedic to somebody who is in distress. So whether you are in your hometown, or whether you are working somewhere else, or whether you are just going to visit the Sea of Galilee, something happens, Magen David Adom will know how to locate the nearest EMT or paramedic and send him to you directly, something that spares minutes and save lives.
Wow, that's really amazing. And in a country with a population of about 9 million, that's more than 10% of the people in the country that get transported to a hospital, that you guys are there right on the spot and taking care of.
Indeed, and I think that talking about numbers, if you look on the number of people that volunteer for Magen David Adom, this is huge numbers.
Mm.
In all, there are 39,000 women and men that volunteer for Magen David Adom. 90% of them, 90% are volunteers. So if you look into a room full of Magen David Adom volunteers, 10% are paid staff. This is their daily job. The rest are businessmen, lawyers, contractors, whatever. But they say, when if something happens next to me, I want to go and help my neighbor. Very similar to the Good Samaritan story that we all are familiar with. I am going to provide services for somebody whom I don't know, and it is up to Magen David Adom to make sure that those 35,000 volunteers are trained, are equipped, and know what to do when disaster strikes.
I want to get into stuff like October 7th and the current conflict in Iran. But before we get into that, I want to understand, how did you get involved in this to begin with? You've been doing this for a long, long time.
I've been doing this for almost 35 years. And the entire thing began when I was on my 10th grade. Each 10th grader in Israel needs to do 60 hours of community service. We come to our 10th graders and tell them, listen, you should do something for your own community. So I asked, okay, what are the options? They told me, well, you can go and help other kids do their homework. And I was thinking, I'm not doing my own homework. How can I go and help somebody else doing something I'm not doing? And they told me, you can do all kind of things, and you can volunteer for Magen David Adom. Now, in Israel, everybody knows Magen David Adom as the ambulance service. This is like, I'm always calling our ambulances the chariots of hope. You see an ambulance of Magen David Adom, you see hope coming on a chariot. And I was thinking to myself, listen, this is very cool. I can ride the ambulances. I will hear the sirens. I will help people. And so I went and undergone the first aid training that we provide for our teenagers. And very, very quickly, I understood that it's much more than the sirens. It's much more than being in the middle of the action. It's all about the look at people's eyes after you have helped them. And this help doesn't have to be something major. You don't have to save someone's life on each and every call. We do this. We do save lives, but sometimes it's just giving somebody the feeling that everything that will be okay, supporting someone, giving him a mental support, and seeing the look at people's eyes. When I saw it, I knew that this is my life mission.
I think just with that explanation, people get the sense that it's not just a job that you guys are doing, but it's family that you're taking care of. And that's something that's, I think, really exceptional about Israel and the country and the people.
I couldn't agree more about this. If you ask Magen David Adom people, most of them will tell you this is my second family, sometimes my first family, and it is quite interesting because you would say, okay, we are all Israelis, we live at the same land, but each one comes from a different background. What do a person, a 15-year-old boy who grew up in a Jewish city, has to do with a Christian boy who lives in the near city, Nazareth, and learns in a Catholic school? I'm learning something, one thing. He learns something else. But at the end of the day, when we meet in Magen David Adom, we find that we share the same values: the care for others, the protection of life, the providing of hope. So sometimes the fact that we live far away from each other, that we are coming from different backgrounds, might seem something that makes a difference between us. But when you go deeper, you find out that at the end of the day, in Magen David Adom, we share the same values.
And most people don't realize just how diverse Israel is. There are 20% of the population is Arab. You have the Druze there. There's Christians. There's Muslims. There's Jewish people. There's people who don't believe in anything. And when you show up for an emergency, you aren't making any distinction between any of those people.
Definitely. I am always saying that the only argument within the ambulance is what are we taking, what are we having for lunch? Yeah, because you say you come from many people come from different backgrounds. But when you have a joint mission, when you agree on several things, then there are no disputes. And more than this, I think it is so important that people in Israel, and regardless who they are, they learn the story, the life story of others. What's important for other people, what do they do in their life, what their beliefs are. It makes things totally different. When I got to learn, the Muslim tradition or the Christian tradition, this is something that opened up my eyes and let me understand what are the concerns, or what are the beliefs of my fellow EMTs. And this is something that makes me, or the other people of Magen David Adom. The story is not Uri. The story is Magen David Adom. But how you find a path to walk and exercise your humanitarianism, and how you live better in a country which is, as you said, very diverse, yet the greatest place on earth.
Talking about the fact that you're living in a country that's very dangerous, um, everything really changed on October 7th. And how did that impact you, your life, your work? What happened with all of that? It wasn't the day-to-day stuff anymore.
No, it wasn't. And I would start saying by saying that I think that the basic perception for all of Magen David Adom people is always be prepared. Be prepared for a massive earthquake. Be prepared for war. Be prepared for anything that can happen, because sometimes this preparedness makes you ready for things that you have never imagined you would go through. And for Magen David Adom, non-official agency or ministry or the army never came to us and said, listen, you have to be prepared for 3,000 terrorists invading Israel, performing atrocity that has not been seen since World War II, creating massacre and all the stories that we heard. But in a way, Magen David Adom was ready, because we had the equipment, we had the ambulances, and we had the people that are willing to run to fire when they know they are risking their lives.
Mm.
And with your permission, I'll go a little bit into details. When the attack started at 6:30, 6:29, that's the exact time. Nobody understood what was going on. There was no apparent reason why Hamas will shoot so many missiles at those distances, and it was going nonstop. But our assumption was that something different, something strange and different happens, and this is when our director general, the head of the organization, ordered to man the entire fleet of ambulances, 1,700 ambulances, under the assumption that if something huge is happening, we need each and every ambulance. The fact that we had 39,000 people made it possible to man those ambulances very fast. And this what enabled us to rush ambulances to the south, while making sure that the northern front, the Lebanese border, is also covered. One
Right.
of the first assumptions was that what Hamas is doing in the south, or the missile rockets in the south, is just a diversion for an invasion in Lebanon. Very quick, we learned that Magen David Adom people has become target within the communities, within the kibbutzim, in the surrounding of Gaza. Hamas directly and deliberately targeted Magen David Adom people. This is additional crime against humanity,
Yeah.
to add to the huge and never-ending list of Hamas. But for Magen David Adom people, this was something devastating, because this emblem first represents only doing good for others, and for more than 90 years that Magen David Adom has been operating, we have never been attacked while wearing our uniforms. People would let ambulance go uninterrupted, with no problem, regardless of what was the situation. And suddenly, to see those terrorists shooting RPG rockets and shooting with their AK-47 on our people, this was something that was mind blowing. But then you saw the Magen David Adom spirit of people rushing to the fire, extracting victims, going to the hospitals, taking the ambulance and going back to the Nova Festival and to the worst areas, knowing that they're putting their own life at risk. Now, for me personally, this was frightening on the one hand, but so empowering on the other hand. Frightening because you're saying, what are we dealing with here? It
Mhm.
has never happened. We have never thought that terrorists would come into Jewish cities or complete areas and will actually make them war zone. But on the other hand, I said, if we are able to respond to these atrocities and to keep going, and to I'm sorry for all the noise over here, but there is an alert that a missile from Iran will be shot towards Israel soon. Let me show you. You see, this is an alert that I get to my cellular phone. But as
From
we
Home
are,
Front Command there?
this is from the Home Front Command. They identify that missile is being shot from Iran, and they give us about 6 to 8 minutes of warning. So they are saying, don't go right now to the shelter, but be around the shelter. So about 2 minutes before the missile is supposed to hit, we will ask you to go to the shelter. Don't worry about me. I'm in a shelter, so we can definitely go on. But you are now actually getting
Yeah.
live situation.
Wow.
Going back to October 7th. So knowing that we are facing a challenge that we have never faced, knowing that knowing the number of people that were murdered that day was devastating. On the other hand, knowing that Magen David Adom is there and is rushing to fire and is willing to fight not with weapons and not with guns, but with the spirit, the
Yeah.
medical equipment, the ambulances. This is something that really empowered me. It said, "Yeah, we are here. We are on the fight. We will prevail. It'll take time, but we will get there." And one last thing from regarding October 7th. Um, when the sun rose on October 8th, we said, okay, this is the time to take action. We are grieving for our fallen citizens, for our seven Magen David Adom people that were murdered. But
Mm.
at the same time, we have to go on and prepare the community. We are launching a national campaign for training communities, so God forbid if we will have additional incident like this, the communities will be better prepared. We are now launching a training session for people at their home, because when people feel that they can react for emergency, they feel more confidence. This is something that builds resilience.
Yeah.
So we said it's not our role only to respond when emergency happens. It is our role to strengthen the national resilience of Israelis, and we're doing this by training. We're doing this by assuring them that regardless what happens, Magen David Adom will be there for them.
Yeah, it's a known fact, at least amongst us here, and I think amongst a lot of people, that when disasters happen, just really any place in the world, Israel is always the first one there to help other countries, even if they're countries that don't agree with us, right?
Definitely, I think that the fact that Israel know to respond very fast is key in responding for anything that happens in the world. Now, taking into account that at the end of the day, we look at the needs of the people. We don't play politics, especially not global politics when it goes to people. And if needed, we are the first one to send help. I myself was privileged enough to be part of Magen David Adom delegation to Haiti after the devastating earthquake in 2010. Spent over a month there. It was very important. We
Wow.
sent delegations. We had people going to Ukraine. They called us and said, "Do you have paramedics that can work in dangerous environment?" I told them, "What are you talking about? They are now working. They are actually in a shift. Will you be willing to send them to Ukraine, but be aware that they are shooting missiles over there?" I told them, "Okay, we have the south. We can send them." So Ukraine as well, even Turkey. After the earthquake they had, like a year and a half ago, I don't remember exactly when it was. Turkey, we had Magen David Adom people going over there and looking for Turks that were under the rebels, pulling them out, knowing that the Turkish administration is not the greater supporter of the state of Israel.
Hmm.
But I think that by doing so, we show the people that at the end of the day, what they've been told about Israel and Israelis is wrong, is not true. We prove by doing,
Yeah.
by being there, by supporting, by saving lives, by bringing the Magen David Adom spirit and the Israeli spirit everywhere to the world.
Now you're,
Oh, once again, this is the siren. Okay, now we
yeah,
have the siren, but
yeah.
this is what happens. All Israelis now, currently, are going to the shelter. Magen David Adom teams at the dispatch will receive information regarding what is the projected hitting point of the missile, and they will go out of the shelters to make sure that if somebody is hit around this hitting point, he'll be taken care of immediately. Think about it. It's like soldiers. The only profession whom I know that runs towards fire when he or she are under danger is soldiers, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
In Israel, Magen David Adom people are running toward fire.
Now, and I've heard of other projects like the Good Neighbor Project, where we had Israelis who were going across the border into Syria during the civil war and bringing injured Syrians back into Israeli hospitals and helping to heal them. I'm really curious though, when October 7th happens, you're down there, and I didn't know how many Magen David Adom people were murdered, but you just said 7 people. So they were there in the line of fire. How do you make decisions? What were the orders for the people as they were encountering? There were terrorists who were injured or killed. How did you deal with that on that day? And really, for like they were not fully taken care of and killed until like 3 days in, before the whole southern area was declared clear. But how did you guys deal with that for those first couple of days?
On October 7th, we instructed our teams to stay in the stations if they are in the war zone. If there are terrorists around them, they are to remain at the infirmaries or the locations where they provide treatment to injured persons, and keep on going treating patients and try to defend themselves the best they can. We have stories, crazy stories from that day. A paramedic in Kibbutz Be'eri, this is one of the kibbutzim that were hit the hardest. About 10% of the kibbutz residents were murdered that day. And our paramedic, a 23-year-old paramedic, were operating within the clinic of the kibbutz for the entire day, reporting to us on the phone, and even she even thought of trying and go and talk to the terrorists, telling them, "Listen, I'm a medical professional. Let me go." And the terrorist shot her leg. They didn't even let her go. And when they understood that there is a medical clinic, they didn't stop. They rushed into the clinic and they murdered her and additional people over there. When we found her body a couple of days later, because we couldn't go inside, she was still wearing her exam gloves on her. So she didn't run, she didn't try to hide or something like this. She was fully into taking care of others. Now, in regards of treating anybody on the scene, our instructions, or what we do, we treat everyone at the same level as a human being. But we knew that on October 7th, if you saw somebody that was lying on the ground with a weapon next to him, is wearing a jacket, we would probably go and ask the bomb squad to make sure that this is clear. We don't want to touch anybody to cause damage to our people. So, and we know, by the way, that Hamas has booby-trapped bodies. So yeah, not civilian bodies, but their own bodies. So we had to make sure that the bomb squad's unit clears anyone who is not a civilian before treating him. But in the war zone themselves, it was like operating under fire. We had a team working 30 hours in a synagogue. They were called to a place. They understood they are surrounded by terrorists. They went into a synagogue, and for 30 hours, they've been treating victims over there. You know, I'm not surprised that the synagogue has protected them. But if you would ask Magen David Adom paramedic, telling, what's the craziest scenario that you can think of coming to a Saturday morning shift that will happen? They would never say, "I will have to go into war zone where terrorists are shooting at me and I'm barricaded in a synagogue for 30 hours." The rest of our teams in the cities, they were just going back and forth, back and forth. Some of them using armored ambulances, but not most of them. and they just didn't stop because they believed, they are fully committed and they believe the mission.
It's interesting. Even you said it very quickly, but you have to pay attention. You have armored ambulances, right? So you have to be able to go into areas knowing that you might be taking on fire. So you don't just have ambulances. You have to have ambulances that are armored. And I know that Billy Graham's association, Franklin Graham Samaritan's Purse, has been part of and very instrumental in donating a lot of those, even just in this last year.
Indeed. On October 7th, we had 14 ambulances that were targeted by Hamas terrorists. They actually blew up our ambulances. And several days post October 7th, when we were still trying to understand what happened, how do we continue from this point, Kenny Isaacs, the vice president of Samaritan Purse, came to us, to Magen David Adom, and said, "Okay, I'm here in the name of Jesus Christ. How can I help?" And this was something that I will never forget in my entire life, because as an Israeli, you always feel that the entire world is against you. This is the basic feeling for an Israeli, especially on October 7th. And if you get a support, you would imagine that it would be from the Jewish communities. And suddenly seeing a very impressive person, a Christian, coming to you and said, "I want to help. How can I do it?" And we told them, "Listen, this is what we have lost just several days ago." And Franklin Graham has called my director general and told him, "Listen, we will replace each and every ambulance that you lost, and we will reinforce your armored ambulance fleet, so that Magen David Adom teams can go safely for other scenes like this, and can evacuate patients more safely." And this was a ray of light within this darkness. This is something that gives us hope. As for somebody that usually brings hope, to have this hope brought to us, this was something that I would never forget. And I would mention one more thing in this term. On January 2024, like three months post October 7th, Franklin Graham arrived for the second time after October 7th, because he came immediately after October 7th. He went to the south, and he saw what happened there. And on January 2024, he came back, and he dedicated 14 new ambulances, and each ambulance was dedicated in memory of a Magen David Adom murdered person, either on October 7th or that fell during the battle since October 7th. And Franklin went from family to family, thanked them for the service of their family member, and prayed with them. Now, it was pouring rain in Jerusalem, and he stopped at each and every family, prayed with them, and this is something that was uplifting spiritually, much more than operationally. And thanks to Samaritan Purse, Magen David Adom was much better prepared for June 2025, the 12-day war, and is much better prepared for what we are experiencing these days in Israel.
So let's talk about that. I'm thankful and I'm glad that there's support coming from Samaritan's Purse and from Franklin Graham. What is it like right now? We're 100 hours into this war with Iran, and all of a sudden we've known that there's a partnership between the United States and Israel, but Israel has never had a partner like they do right now. And the fact that we're doing this together is unbelievable. What are you hoping for as a result of this? And what have you seen just this week in this battle? Well, obviously, we know that you're getting alerts. I'm getting the same alerts. I have the Red Alert app on my phone. And so I can feel those going off. But what has this week been like for you?
So I'll start a couple of words about the partnership. I thought that the partnership that was evident on June 2025 couldn't be that this was like the highlight of partnership that couldn't be better than this when President Trump sent the US bombers to actually destroy the Iranian nuclear program. And seeing what's happening today, this is something that I would never imagine that I would be able to see in my lifetime. Now, please understand, for Israelis, we know that Iran is the most evil country, the Iranian regime, not the people. That the Iranian regime is the most evil one. Like for almost my entire lifetime, I'm hearing that they want to annihilate me, that they are going to destroy me. Do you remember that there was a clock in Tehran counting backwards until the destruction of the
Right.
state of Israel? And suddenly, with the help of the United States, things are changing in a way that is, for me, it's just a much brighter future for my kids and family. So who can be more great? How can I be more grateful than this? And we know that there are bumps in the way, and what we are going now is our bumps. And as I just told you, we experienced missile rockets fired towards Israel. These are quite challenging because they carry about 1,000 pounds of explosive. And when this missile hit the ground, it can take down an entire block or half a neighborhood. And getting to a scene like this, our people, Magen David Adom people, are seeing like five buildings that have been distracted or partially collapsed, and they have to go actively and survey for injured person. It takes time, and during this time, they are still under the threat of additional missile being fired at them. This is actually happening. This has happened several times during the last 6 days, and uh, also assessing the victims is harder because blast injuries create internal bleeding, and this is much harder to assess than penetrating trauma. But our teams are bringing their dedication as it was on October 7th, as it was since. Up until now, we had 10 fatalities, unfortunately. The worst incident was the Beit Shemesh incident, where a missile directly hit a synagogue and actually destroyed it completely. Our paramedic arrived there and said, "I'm from the neighborhood. I'm from Beit Shemesh. I know this place, and I am used to having a synagogue, and all I see is a crater right now."
And destroyed
Definitely,
an entire
definitely.
family there as well, right?
And exactly, an entire family has perished. Actually, there were two families involved, and people from the neighborhood. I was talking earlier about responding from within the community, and the first paramedic, Magen David Adom paramedic, to arrive to the scene, says, "Listen, I am taking care of people whom I know for my entire life, neighbors, somebody that my kids were going with them to the kindergarten, somebody that was a neighbor of my parents." It actually takes its emotional toll as well, but we are following it closely. Now, two challenges that we encounter in the last 2 days. First, the Iranian has started using a missile that is, while it's in the air, it launches like about 20 or 30 small bombs. Each bomb is about eight pounds or so, and they are falling from the sky. So it's not one missile that hits the ground, rather than smaller bombs that creates damage much more vast area. And if somebody touches it, if we find it on the ground and somebody touches it, it can explode and cause more damage. The second thing is the attacks from Lebanon. Now, according to what we hear from the media, the attacks from Lebanon and Iran are not coordinated. But just between the three of us, because nobody else is listening, if they fire at the same time, right, from Iran, they are firing towards Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, the center of the city. From Lebanon, at the same time, they are firing towards the northern part of Israel. So a magnificent coincidence. So we don't know for sure, but it looks like very well coordinated. And the fact that the entire country has to go into shelters at the same time really stretches Magen David Adom to its limits. But as I mentioned earlier, I think that everyone sees it as a bump on a way to a much brighter future. It is hard, it is challenging, but we know that together with the U.S. we will prevail for sure.
Well, first of all, thank you. I know that you have alerts and bells and whistles going off like crazy over there, and that just tells us how much the enemy wants to level and destroy. We believe that evil has organized and wants to take out Israel, but we believe that God still has hope. I love that, God told Abraham a long time ago, in you, all the families of the earth will be blessed, and Israel continues to be a light to the nations. And we're thankful that we live in a day and time where our country, United States, can come alongside and be a light as well. Back to you. Do you still believe, I believe it was David Ben Gurion that said, in order to be a realist in Israel, you got to believe in miracles. Do you believe miracles are still happening?
I'm always saying that we don't believe in miracles, but we rely on miracles. Let me tell you this. I've seen miracles. I've seen miracles on October 7th. I've seen miracles since, and I'm seeing miracles each and every day in the last 6 days. The fact that ballistic missiles carrying thousands of pounds, all across, being shot towards civilian population, and in general, there are hardly any hits. This is like not somebody. This is someone that looks from above and makes sure that nobody is hurt. Nobody, and he, of course, didn't promise us that things will go smoothly, but he is keeping us safe. He is keeping us strong, and I believe that we are his emissaries to make sure that even if there are bumps, then Magen David Adom people will be there in order to make sure that things will go smoothly towards a better future. I really believe this.
We're just coming off of Purim right now, and it seems like we're having a repeat of that same thing. God takes the evil and he reverses it.
Well, Uri, thank you for joining us in the midst of a war in Israel, but we thought that this story needs to be told. So we stand with you, we stand with Israel, and we support the people. And thank you for your service and your work in the land.
I thank you so much for having me. This is the story is about 39,000 the volunteers and staff of Magen David Adom, people who dedicate their life for the sake of others. And I would call our listeners and viewers, if you want to learn more about Magen David Adom, if you want to see our work, and if you want to support the sacred mission of saving lives in the Holy Land, please go to savinglivesinisrael.org. That's savinglivesinisrael.org. And I want to thank you for listening to for us today. And please pray for the success of Magen David Adom people. Pray that the Lord will give them strength to succeed in their mission. that they will be able to provide assistance for anybody who is in need, and that they will continue to save lives in the Holy Land. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, Uri, thank you, and we're glad you were able to lay all of this out, because we have a very large audience, and it's good that they're going to hear this right from the land, and so we're really appreciating everything that you shared.
Yeah, and this is not, even though it's responding on behalf of the government, this is not a government agency. It's not supported or financed by the government. And so
Right.
It is dependent on donations. And so we encourage you, if you want to support and stand with Israel, this is one really great and easy way to do that. So we'll put all those links in the show notes. And Uri, be safe. And next time we're in the land, we have a tour that's supposed to be in a couple weeks. We'll see if we're going to be able to make it or not, but we'll see you next time we're there. Shalom.
Thank you so much. God bless you all. Toda Rabba, and I'll see you in Israel.
All right. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.